Hello, and welcome to Wine with Weeda, the podcast that is dedicated to engaging with health professionals and caregivers in meaningful discussions. I'm your host, Rita Shamoon, or as my clients call me, Weeda. I'm a pediatric speech pathologist, and I am so excited to have you here. Each week, we deep dive into connecting you with caregivers and healthcare professionals, sharing their insights, stories, and key takeaways to help you with your child's diagnosis and your journey. Whether you are a parent, healthcare professional, a lifetime learner, or simply a wine enthusiast, you're in the right place. So let's sit back and relax and enjoy today's episode. Hello, and welcome to Wine with Weeda, everybody. Today, I am talking about women's health, wellness, and creating better versions of ourselves. As we know, children with a disability take a lot of mental load and emotional load for caregivers, in particular mothers. So this episode is dedicated for all you remarkable women out there, and a gentle reminder to look after yourself, because when you look after yourself, you are most importantly looking after your own children too. Now, I am graced by the most gorgeous woman named Elle Brown from Elle Brown Wellness, who is a women's health practitioner. Welcome to Wine with Weeda, Elle.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I love that intro because I'm so passionate about supporting mums and women. I do it every day in clinic, so I'm just so excited to chat to you more about how your listeners can support themselves too.
I love your work and the content that you post on your Instagram. And I'm such a big believer in alignment and the universe sending people into your life. This year, I opened up my old private account and created the Wine with Weeda podcast account. So I was following you years
No.
ago. I didn't even know you existed. Yeah. So I
Oh.
reactivated it in the new year. Because I had a following. And
Mhm.
I thought, you know what? And I was like, what's this woman? Who's this woman about? Like, I was like, I don't even recognize Elle Brown. But there was one post you put which has stuck by me, and I
Mhm.
sent it to all my girlfriends. It was, you shared a woman running on Bondi Beach, and she was
Mhm.
talking so negatively about herself, saying, "Oh, I just have to burn the Christmas weight," or "in the heat," and she was just so talking negatively that was linked to exercise. But you spoke about the importance of recognizing your own wellness and not
Mhm.
to push yourself through the exercise, because that has such a negative impact to your body. And I was like, you know what? In our world that we live in, we are bombarded with what kind of exercise we need to do as women. And I just think having your perspective will firstly not allow us to give ourselves grace and compassion, but also recognize that we as women have carried
Mhm.
babies. We do so much, and it's time to start saying, hey, thank you for doing this for me. Let me nourish you in the way that is best for you. So,
Mhm.
Elle, please tell the listeners about who you are, what you do, and your why, your passion behind what you do.
Oh, thank you for giving me the space to share that. So, yeah, I'm Elle, and as we were just saying, I'm a women's health practitioner, and I've been doing this work now for about, I think I'm walking into my 12th or 13th year, and I've
Wow.
grown a lot. And I say that I've grown along my clients, and they've really taken me in the direction that my work has gone, the women that I work with. So, when I started, I was very passionate about nutrition. I was a clinical nutritionist. As my foundational training, I had some health stuff myself when I was younger and really found a food is medicine approach to be really powerful in my own healing. So before that, I actually really wanted to be a journalist. I love words. I love talking. I
Ah.
love all the things. And so you'll see on my page, I do write a lot and share a lot because that's still, I love that type of side of things too. But once I started learning about the body and the systems and the power of food, I really couldn't help but go into that profession. Um, and that led me to clinical nutrition. But as I started working with clients, just like we were saying before we jumped on, I started realizing that nutrition just wasn't enough. And the women that I were working with, they were improving to a certain point, and then they would reach a real stuck point in their health. And I was really trying to figure out why that was happening. And I really started to look at my clients and realize that I could actually begin to profile them by their health issues. So
Mm.
if they had a hormonal condition, they were all very similar women that were pushing past their limits, not listening to their body, depleting themselves. If they had a thyroid condition, they weren't, able to ask for what they want or self express, or it just became really um, kind of, I guess, in my face that I needed to focus more than just the food. And so that led me down a path of studying the emotions and studying more how to read pathology. And I started really taking a much more holistic approach to healing with the women that I worked with. And today, like I was saying to you before we jumped on, I spend equal time with the women talking about their emotions as I do talking about the physical health space, because I believe things like our capacity, our level of stress, the health of our nervous system, how much we're able to create space and give back to ourselves and listen to our body and nurture our own body, or our level of dysregulation, or like you just said before, how much we're pushing ourselves with exercise or thinking we need to restrict or eat less. To
Mm.
me, it just leads to that cortisol cocktail that we talked about over
Yeah.
the break. I know we're for me,
I
it's
love that.
for me, it's a cortisol cocktail. But yeah, I just see this real picture in the women that I work with who are just at their edge, really at capacity, and really needing more support beyond food. So I think I've really transformed in the last few years to provide support in a lot of areas of health and wellness for women. And I'm super proud that I take that role and that I really look at things holistically, because I think it is so important in today's society, but especially for mums. I think it's really important that we focus on other areas, not just nutrition and movement, not just calories in and calories out, or how much we're flogging ourselves. Women's bodies are so different to men's bodies, so I think
Mm.
it's really important that we look at all areas and realize that if we're also not caring for our stress response and how much we're giving to others, that we're going to be a depleted, burnt out, frazzled, unwell woman.
Yeah, yeah. So
Yeah.
many points I want to touch on
Yeah.
here. I'm going to tell the listeners about my own personal experience. So last year, I decided to go back to a gym, and
Mm.
not just your local any gym. It was one of those circuit-based gyms. I don't want to name them. Yeah, where there's drill-based tasks under a short amount of time. And mid-year, my girlfriend said to me, I've known you for 20 years, and this is the only time I've noticed you being sick repeatedly in a
Wow.
space of 5 months. I was getting sick
Yeah.
all the time. And then when I step back to think, I never get sick. How come I'm sick
Mm.
now? And I'm exercising, I'm sleeping, I'm doing everything on paper that's
Mm.
right. But when I step back, I would wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning, don't give myself that grace to start. I'm in that really blue light, cold environment, and push my body to places that it's never pushed before,
Yeah.
come back into mum mode and go, 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 go till the point of exhaustion. And
Yeah.
it made me realize that my body was actually talking to me for
Mm.
that 5 month duration, saying, hey, Reet, yeah, I know your intention of getting better and exercising, but you're choosing the wrong path. I'm
Yeah.
sending you signs that you're unwell. Can we talk about that in
What?
more depth as to
Yeah.
the importance of listening to your body and
Mm.
the impact of that intense exercise for on a woman's body?
Yeah, I would love to. I would say the
Yeah.
starting point is that if we are in a space where we're really at capacity and we're go, go, go,
Mm,
and there's so much doing, which I think for mums is a really big theme, then our
mm,
nervous system is going to be in that state of dysregulation or activation where we're pretty much running on our stress hormones, so our cortisol and our adrenaline. And when we're in that state, it's really, really hard for us to tune into our own body and actually even listen to it. So when we talk about the
mm.
body sending signals, it will be sending them, but it'll be really, really difficult for us to be able to listen and then respond accordingly, because we'll be frazzled, we'll be dysregulated, we'll be burnt out, our capacity will probably be affected. So I would say step one in that space is do women have any tools that help them throughout the day to provide a little bit of regulation? And that might be being able to drink a tea actually warm and pause for a minute, or take
Mm.
breaths, or step outside, or ask for some support if that's a way for you to grab some micro moments in the day where you can just come back to yourself. Because I think step one, if we're going to tune into our own capacity in our own body, that actually we need to have a little bit of regulation in order to do that. If we're so dysregulated, we're a bit disconnected from our body. So that
Mm.
would be my step one advice. And then my second point would be that we are not men. So women's bodies are not men's
Yeah.
bodies. And if I work with male clients like I did in the past, they will thrive in a space of getting up super early, potentially fasting, working out, pushing themselves. Their testosterone will love that. They will be
Okay.
in a space where they will be thriving off that. But as a woman, if we try and kind of emulate that similar kind of routine, we're going to really suffer, because we need more rest, more sleep, more being, a slower pace, and we need higher calorie intake and less intensive exercise. So I would say, Rita, that you were running on a little bit of cortisol at that time when you were getting
100%. I could feel it. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
losing your body. And, if some women might think, how do I know if I'm running on cortisol? So some of those signs would be that when you wake up in the morning, you feel really tired. So you don't get out of bed feeling energized. You kind of feel like you've been hit by a truck a little bit. And then through the day, you might notice that you're suffering with a little bit of anxiety, or peaks and dips in your energy, even dips in your blood sugar where you're needing a lot of extra things to pick you up, like
Mm.
chocolate or coffee, or your
Coffee.
carbohydrate, yeah, coffee, or your carbohydrate rich foods, right? And then as we get to that later portion in the day, my cortisol cocktail women will often say, I feel wired. So I term that tired feeling, where you're so exhausted, but you're a little bit wired at the end of the day. And that just shows me that that cortisol wave that naturally happens in the body has flipped over. So how women should
Mm.
naturally feel is that we wake up in the morning, we've got energy, it slowly tapers off throughout the day into sleep. But when we're running on our stress hormones, like the picture you painted, we get up, we thrash the body, we lack sleep, we stick in the doing all day long. We might have gaps, big gaps, where we're not able to eat. So we get a second coffee, or we run on that caffeine cocktail as well. And then we get to the nighttime and we are like wired, because we're running off all
Mm.
that adrenaline and cortisol that's been pumping through our bodies throughout the day. And I think a lot of us live like this, because a lot of the research that they've done on fitness and nutrition is geared towards men, and we're trying to keep
Mm.
up, and we're trying to do what we think is best for our health. Like you said, on paper, you were moving your body, trying to focus on all those other areas, and still feeling like you were getting those signals. The other thing that you mentioned was you had immune system dips. And I would
Mm.
also say that your nervous system and your immune system are very closely and intricately linked. So if you're running off that cortisol cocktail, we're depleting a lot of our minerals and our energy in our body, and our systems are really depleted. They've got nothing kind of backing them up and supporting them. So then we might find that we feel a lot more run down, we're catching a lot more things, or we're just almost feeling like that frazzled, anxious energy under the surface that's always kind of bubbling a little bit there. And we're fueling
Yeah.
off that instead of, I guess, fueling off some nourishing practices to really help us move away from that dysregulation.
Yeah. As you were talking, all I could think of is the rise of women being diagnosed with ADHD.
Yes.
And I work with children with ADHD, and I understand that their behavior is impacting their learning and their concentration and so forth. And a lot of mums that I work with are saying, well, now I'm on Ritalin because I've never known I've been diagnosed with ADHD. But the more that I'm understanding your field of work, I start to question, is it a true diagnosis of ADHD, which I'm not disregarding firstly, this is a disclaimer
Mhm.
that if it's true, then it is, or is it a case of a cortisol cocktail,
Mm.
women being in a man's world, not looking after themselves that is appropriate for a woman's body? And it just makes me think, have we just got it all wrong? Have we missed, do we just need a label as opposed to actually listening in to know what is wrong with us?
Yeah. I think that unfortunately, because women are trying to live like men, or because our society is
Mm.
not always set up for women and our needs and what we probably need for our health, that we're a pretty sick society.
Yeah.
Women, and that does break my heart. And I see a rise in so many things in clinic that I've never seen before: sensitivities, reacting to food, having huge hormonal responses, insomnia, anxiety, all those things you talked about, ADHD. There's been a huge rise in all of that in what I'm seeing clinically. And I just truly believe it's because we've moved away from what women's bodies truly need. And, we need more rest. We need more being. We need to be more connected to nature, more connected to the other women in our lives, more connected to ourselves. And I think that we're all so depleted and burnt out and having to manage work and motherhood and carry a million things. And for women, it's the physical load, but it's also the mental load,
Yeah.
because we've got this beautiful ability to balance multiple things in our mind and our body. We typically do that, but it doesn't necessarily serve us or help our health. And I think a lot of women listening to this will just feel really stuck in the responsibility and the burden of everything that they do have to do, because a lot of them say to me, where do I even start? You know,
Yeah.
I'm financially burdened, I'm physically burdened, I've got a hectic schedule, I'm mothering, I've got all this stuff happening. And I think it is really challenging. And it's sort of why in my work I'm such a realist, and I really like to focus on the small things that women can integrate throughout their day to support them, because I think in this day and age, that's the approach we have to take. We're not able to
Mm.
sit in community with other women and peel beans together and have, them
No.
help us with the mothering and all that, which I wish it was.
It's so interesting. My grandmother had 9 children in a village. My
Wow.
mum had 3 children, and it makes me reflect on the importance of a village for women, because you have that emotional connection when the partners are off at work, and you have that support with, making the beans, so you big pots of food, and the demand of cooking for the family. The kids are all playing together, and the woman leaves that interaction with her cup filled with
Yeah.
abundance, with gratitude. Whereas now, as a mum myself, that sense of community is pretty much zilch.
Yeah.
And we're trying to create that environment that our grandparents and mothers did,
Yeah.
but it's so unrealistic. And my question to you is, where do we start? I'm an example, but
Yeah.
without a doubt, without mothers speaking about it, they're all going through the same struggles.
Yeah. I think the first thing that I see in clinic a lot is a lot of shame that we
Mm,
can't carry everything. I have a lot of women come in that say, I'm not coping. I feel so anxious. I feel so tired. I'm so overwhelmed. I'm so unhappy. And, my next question is like, have you shared this with anyone? And
mm,
they often say, no, this is the first time I've ever said this. And so I guess my first piece of advice is, do you have anyone around you that you can share how you're truly feeling with? I really believe if we're going to begin healing and we're going to begin a process of minimizing our cortisol and focusing on our stress response and our health, truth is a really vital element in that. And it's a really good starting point. And if you don't have anyone around you in your personal life that you feel like you could share that with, I'm a big advocate of creating a care team and having, your
mm,
practitioner team around you that you can lean on. And maybe that's a space where you can really be in your truth to share how you're actually feeling. Because, like you said, we're not sitting around necessarily in community with women anymore and having this open communication where we're saying, I'm feeling this way, I'm feeling that way. One of my girlfriends shared a story with me about how with her newborn, she was really struggling. Like, she wasn't sleeping and there was a lot of issues in that space, and she was just feeling at her wit's end. And she drove to her mother's group and she was going to share with the group that she was really struggling and, not feeling like she was handling it. And she said, as they were talking, everyone else was saying, oh, my baby's a dream and I'm not experiencing
mm.
anything. And so she just swallowed it down and, got in her car and cried on the way home. And it still makes me emotional to think that so many women are in that space where we're still feeling like we need to mask up, like
Yeah.
front of other women and in front of our social circles. And I think because we've got this also these beautiful platforms like Instagram, which I love, I've got gorgeous people on it like yourself, but there's also this element of only sharing the good on so many profiles. And so we're seeing that highlight reel and thinking, oh, well, there's something wrong with me that I have women sit opposite me that share really confronting things like, I'm really struggling with motherhood, like I'm not enjoying,
Mm.
and they have this shame of actually sharing their truth. So my first thing would be, yeah, find someone that you can share your truth with. If it's not a partner or a friend or a neighbor or someone in your community circle, then do it with a healthcare provider so that you actually feel seen and heard, and that your body hears that as well. The body really wants you to be in your truth. And then secondly, I think women need women. So
Yeah,
are there any spaces
100%.
yeah, are there any spaces where you could forge a connection, where you truly feel seen by another woman, whether that is in a mother's group setting or a community based activity setting, or just that one good friend that you might have that you feel like really gets you? Are you able to really be in those spaces? And if you are in a space of struggle, can you share that with that person? And do you have that one person in your life where you can take that mask off and put it down and just really
Mm.
be in the truth of who you are? And then a great starting point that I always say for my mums is just try and start with breakfast,
Yeah.
and I know that that sounds like a really silly one to start with, but when we talk about cortisol or supporting our bodies, I see mums really making this beautiful food for their kids. Like, if their kids have sensory issues or whatever other issues, they're putting all their focus into making it so supportive for their children, which is beautiful. But I would just say, as you're making something for them, just make a little something for yourself and just start there. Just start the day with a little bit of nourishment for yourself. And then
Yeah.
things might begin to shift. Your blood sugar might stabilize a little bit. You'll have more nutrients in your body. And that feeling of providing yourself a little bit of care is second to none in this space.
Yeah, yeah. You raised a beautiful point about starting off with breakfast. Now, I find like this conversation's a whole reflective point because I'm in a different stage of motherhood now. My daughters are hitting their early teens, so I was in that the
Oh,
bulk of early childhood, mum mode,
yeah.
living off adrenaline for a while. And there was a one point in my life I had a meltdown. My daughter spilt the milk and I just was in a really dark place. And I sat on the floor crying, crying, crying. And I said to my husband, this is not right. This isn't who I am. Something needs to change. And so I implemented some changes. And the one shift that supported me was I have three daughters watching me.
Yes. Yeah.
If we're so worried about who our children will look up to when they're on the internet, I don't want my daughters to follow an influencer and be guided by them as what they aspire to be.
Mm.
And that was a turning point for myself. Well, why don't I become that model for them? And I always told my clients, children learn through you. So what was I doing by
Yes.
having a cry over spilt milk? So when I would then incorporate joint interaction with my children when we would make breakfast, okay, let's have oats because oats are better. Let's sprinkle some chia seeds. What
Yeah.
fruit should we put on now? And so they were watching me model healthy eating for them, but
Yeah.
engaging together allowed me to nourish myself too. And
Mm.
that was a big turning point for me and a driving force to every decision that I do in my personal life and career. That's my purpose. I do it through my children because it's returning back to myself as well.
Oh, I love all the points you just made there.
Yeah.
Past, I was a children's nutritionist as well. So I worked with a lot of kids and families and mums in that space of my life too. And, I used to say to them that your kids will look at not what you say, but what you actually do in their
Mm,
learning to nourish their own body and love their own self and accept their own body. And yes, there's a lot in that space. You're heading to that teen space where it's a lot harder too. But
mm,
if you can show them that, I nourish myself, I look after myself too, especially if you have daughters. It kind of sets the tone that as women, that's what we do, right? We
Yeah.
nourish ourselves, we look after ourselves, we give back to ourselves. And there's a
Mm.
quote I shared that always makes me cry somewhere online that talks about people never seeing a calm woman. I've seen a stressed out woman, I've seen a depleted woman, I've seen a woman at her limits, but I've never seen a nourished, regulated, calm woman. And it sticks with me because I think in
Yeah.
society, there's so much dysregulation and so much depletion and so much struggle. And so, like you said, if you can just try and go, you know what, I want to kick back on that. Like, I want to really show myself and my daughters that nourishing myself should be higher on that priority list. I'm not saying
Mm.
as a mum that it can always be that top spot, because it can't always be, but just bump yourself up a little bit higher. I feel like women put themselves at the bottom between kids and partners and work and everything else that comes, and we're somewhere down that bottom spot. So I always say just bump yourself up a little bit higher so that you view your own health and your own well-being as a priority. Because in the work that I do, I often say to mums, you can't be the best mama that you can be as far as showing up for your kids and holding space and supporting them if you're not also nourishing yourself. And when I
Mm.
think about you talking about the spilt milk, your poor little nervous system was just at capacity and the spilt milk was just the tipper, right?
Yeah.
There's always the tipper. It's all the other stuff that's gone on underneath that that's pushed us up into that space of being so dysregulated. That one little
Mm.
thing, like the milk or something going wrong in the morning, is going to tip us into that space. And like you said, it was a really good tap on your shoulder and moment to go, you know what, I'm not okay. I'm overwhelmed. I need to nourish myself a little bit more. This is my capacity point. Sometimes hitting that
Mm.
place can be a good thing to realize that we're not receiving enough nourishment for ourselves.
Yeah, yeah. It's true. It was a big eye opener, and it's
Yeah.
interesting. I can start to recognize now when my body's at that. Oh,
Yeah.
here comes the cortisol level. It's peaking. And I'm so grateful for that because I can recognize when I
Yeah.
need to disconnect in order to reconnect, which I always love using with my clients. Let's talk about now. We know that cortisol isn't a good thing. What signs can patients look out for? And what
Yeah.
is the impact of cortisol on the body?
Yeah. So, some signs that you could look out for is similar to your spilt milk story that you've just told, where how are you feeling in your spaces and in things that are happening? So, do you feel at capacity quite often? Do you feel like when things are happening in your life, you get that real feeling in the body of that kind of jittery,
Mm.
racy, heart racing, I just feel on the edge kind of feeling? Are you experiencing anxiety? What is your fuse like with your kids and with other people? And if we're in traffic, if you're the person that is, losing it
Beep.
in the car, yeah, because you're stuck in
Not
traffic.
me. I just curse in Arabic. And no one
Right.
understands those words, or not everybody anyway.
But yeah, if you're hitting that kind of fusey capacity point with partner, kids, traffic, people in your life, that can sometimes be a sign that, you're running off those stress hormones. That other sign is just that you're a go, 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 do, 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 never really wanting to stop or feeling a bit uncomfortable in the space of being with yourself and being with your body. Because if we're running off cortisol, it's kind of almost like this false high in our body where we then really struggle to be in a calm, kind of slow state. So these will be the people that will get annoyed at slow walkers or like people that are going slow around them. They will really want to be at that pace all the time, running off that adrenaline. But the symptoms can be so vast. For some of my clients, it also moves into digestive concerns, things showing up in the
Mm.
hormonal space, headaches, migraines, light sensitivity, insomnia and sleep issues, joint pain and tight fascia in the body. Because if we're in that really highly cortisol driven state, we're going to have a lot of tightness in our tissues and our body as well. So it can be vast and it looks different on every woman, but that is kind of what I would say is a starting point. If you're experiencing any of those types of things, you could be running on your cortisol. The other thing is like
Yeah.
what I mentioned before of waking up in the morning and feeling like you've been hit by a truck and then getting that wired kind of feeling of an evening. That's another really big one for my clients too, running on cortisol. And then what I would say about cortisol is that if we are running on our stress hormones, or if our stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline, they're taking that king spot, like they're just flowing like a fire hydrant into our body most days, our female hormones are taking a back seat. So our
Yeah.
things like progesterone and estrogen and all of those are not going to be functioning very well. And when we start impacting those hormones because our stress hormones are just running the show, that's when we start to see issues with ovulation and with the
Mm.
regular periods, or lots of symptoms as we're heading into perimenopause and menopause, because our adrenals and the state of our adrenaline in that stage of our life is really important to consider as well for hormone health. People always think hormone health is just for baby making, and that really
Yeah.
makes me sad that as women we think that, because having ovulation be prolonged for a woman, like having a good amount of ovulatory years, is very protective for healthy aging too, for our mental health, for our bones,
Mm.
for cognitive decline, all these types of things, and just for our emotional well-being as well. So, I think we've got a lot of issues in that women's health space where there's a lot of contraceptive use that is, muting female hormones for many, many years and stopping ovulation, which I see causing a lot of issues in women's bodies too. And then we're getting
Mm.
menopause earlier for a lot of women too, because of our stressful lifestyles, our lack of loving our hormones because we don't really understand them and we're just living off adrenaline and cortisol for years and years. And then we end up entering perimenopause earlier as well, where we're then experiencing a whole host of other symptoms. My perimenopausal clients will tell me they feel like they're losing their mind half the time. So, yeah, it's
Mm.
impactful to spend years and years in that cortisol state, drinking that cortisol cocktail. It's super impactful for women.
Yeah. Yeah. I just
Mm.
keep reflecting on the clients that I treat with their children. Their lives are just incredibly stressful.
Yeah.
Raising a child with special needs is unpredictable, constant need, not enough sleep,
Yeah.
just and also that thought of I didn't expect this for my child. I want the best for my child. I don't know how. And or I just kind of have so much empathy for these parents, especially mums, that they're losing themselves in the process as they're trying to raise their child. We spoke about the reality of what it's like to be a parent, but then the unrealistic nature of applying these strategies that you're beautifully discussing. You spoke. What other tips could we do with just even self love? What other things can parents do to help themselves out emotionally?
Yeah, I actually really like that you've brought this up, because I in
Mm.
no way want to minimize those struggles for mums navigating that journey. It's
Yeah.
unimaginable. And I think something that's also not taught to women is just how your nervous system is so tightly linked to your child, particularly if your child is in a space where maybe they're nonverbal or they're
Mm.
experiencing situations where you've really got to tune into their nervous system, or if they have an unpredictable nature where you're in a really co-regulation space with them, where they are using your nervous system for safety to regulate and all of that. And that is incredibly depleting and incredibly dysregulating. And for those women, it will be challenging to, I guess, look at some of these suggestions and go, yeah, maybe they're a bit unrealistic for me. So I just really wanted to drive that home as well, that, in those spaces, your children are going to be really relying on your nervous system to support them. And yeah,
Mm.
we see you and we definitely acknowledge that. But also, I think in those spaces, it becomes even more important for to give yourself grace and self-compassion, and also to have some type of tool that supports your nervous system in your day. And it doesn't have to be massive. Even things like water is really supportive for your nervous system. So I say to my clients, have a drink of water, run your wrists under cold water. If your children are in the bath, put your feet in the bath if you can't get into the
Mm.
whole bath yourself. Have a warm shower at the end of the day when kids are in bed, and really let that water help you regulate your system. So that's an example of something that you could begin to focus on that might support that nervous system and in turn start to support that emotional health. I always like to encourage women to get outside as well. Can you get out into a front garden or a balcony, or take your children to a local park or somewhere where you can get some sun on your skin and on your face? Even if
Mm.
at the time it's a bit of a chaotic outing, if you're getting that little bit of light in your eyes and sun on your skin, that's going to do quite a bit for your circadian rhythm, which really works with your sleep and your cortisol and supporting your emotional and physical health as well. So, a little bit of water, a little bit of outside time. And then I really like a tool, because I think we all need a little bit of a tangible tool that we can go to when we feel really stressed. That might look different for everybody. I really like clinical EFT, and I use it with a lot
Yeah.
of my mum because it's so accessible. You only need your hand, you don't need to go to an appointment, and you can tap on your body while the
Can we
chaos is
model some
ensuing.
of that now? So if parents
Yeah,
wanted to know, can we model one now? So I'm your dummy. I'm your dummy.
yeah,
What?
you
So
have
when
done it.
you said we need a tool. So there's the
Yeah,
water. Start off with water, some sunlight, and then a
yeah.
tangible tool. Just does it help you regulate?
It does. So
Okay,
clinical EFT, which you will like, Rita, has shown really
love.
positive. Yeah, it has shown really positive minimization to cortisol. So that's why I
Okay,
really like it for my clients. It also works on acupressure points that connect to the amygdala in the brain, which really help with minimizing distress, fear, anxiety, and helping you with things like clarity and decision making and self compassion. So I like it for its accessibility, because once you know the sequence, you can just keep using those acupressure points whenever you need them. I am a daily tapper. I will tap when I'm boiling the jug, when I'm, driving. If you have certain spaces, or the people listening have certain spaces where they feel like they reach that capacity point, maybe it's taking the kids out, maybe it's going to an appointment, maybe it's driving in the car, or a certain time of the day. Some of my mums use it in the witching hour time of the day, where
yeah.
everybody's tired,
School
everybody's
pickup.
distracted. School
Yeah.
pickup. So all you need is two little whips around of the sequence that I'm about to show you. So it's very quick.
Yeah. Okay.
And when they've done salivary tests on people that have pre-tapping and then post-tapping, they've seen a 43% decrease in cortisol. So when I saw that research, I was,
Wow. Bang, I'm
yeah,
on it.
yeah, and I like it for mums because it's not like you have to sit for 20 minutes in meditation or something like that, which obviously would be helpful, but we're not always all at that point. So I think
Yeah.
it's something that you don't have to be sitting in kind of like an state. You can be doing it while everything else is going on, just to bring yourself a little bit of regulation. I say it's like one hand on you, one hand on everybody else, which I think is so vital.
So even when the kids are having a losing it in the background,
You can
the
just start
impact is still
tapping.
the same. So you don't need to be in a clear state of mind to do it. Okay, all right. That and I, as a mum, that is easily accessible,
Yeah.
achievable, and realistic. Because that when you said about meditating, it's not realistic. Because I'm just thinking, I've got the washing to do, the dinner to make, the ironing
Yeah.
to do. I'm so disconnected and my intention is pure. I want the best for
Of
myself, but the
course.
reality is it's so far from it. But now that you've mentioned this, I feel like every mother can apply it and to support their cortisol health too.
Yeah, I share it with everyone. I'm actually running a little monthly thing at my local women's shelter at the moment for the women there, teaching them EFT, because I think it's like the gift that keeps on giving. It's been so magical for me that I just pass it on to anybody that is feeling at capacity, stressed, or like they need an accessible tool. So I'm so happy to share it with you and your
Okay, let's
listeners.
go. Yeah, I would love to learn. And I'll put this on as a video on my
Yeah.
page and it'll just be available for any mother that needs it.
Oh, perfect. So, as I said, you probably only need about two whips around of the sequence that we're going to do now. But whatever hand you write with, that's going to be the hand that you're going to tap with. So, we're going to come and make two fingers, and they're going to be your tapping fingers. And then that first little point is actually going to be the side of your hand, this little fleshy part. So, you make a little fist. And then this little fleshy part here, and you can just start tapping on there, Rita, whenever you feel ready. This is actually a nice one too. Like the whole sequence helps doing it all. But if you're in a situation where you start to feel nervous, maybe it's a medical appointment or a work meeting or somewhere where you don't want people to know that you're tapping on your face, you could hide this hand underneath a desk or something like that and just provide
Hmm.
yourself a little bit of regulation. If we are providing some acupressure to our body when we're feeling anxious, like the energy is leaving our body, anxiety needs a little bit of containment. So, bringing ourselves back to focusing on our own body can sometimes
Mhm.
start to bring down that stress response a little bit. And then after we've done a couple of taps on here, we'll go to the top of our head. So you can just drop the fist into your lap and just, I know it might be a little bit hard with your headphones, just spot either, yeah, in front of them or behind. So the top of your head. And then we're going to go to that inside of the eyebrow point. So just kind of sticking on that right hand side if you're right handed, or that left hand side if you are left handed. And all of these acupressure points have a reason. They all connect with stress and fear and all of those types of messages for the body. And then we're going to go to the outside of the eye. So just kind of on the
Both
side of
eyes or just the right eye? Okay.
one. I mean, you can do two hands if that feels good, but some of my clients say that they then compare the difference in sides. Like they're like, oh, this is too fast, this is too slow. Plus, I think one handed is great for mums because you can still be doing other things with your other hand if you
Yeah.
need to. And then we're going to come to below your eye. Yeah, beautiful. And then below your nose. It should just feel really calming tapping on the face. It just
Yeah.
brings a little bit of calm to you. And then your chin. If some people have issues with touch, then this might be a difficult tool for them. But other than that, it's pretty gentle in what it does.
Could you
And then
implement this with little kids as well?
you can tap
Yeah.
on kids or get
Yeah.
them to tap. Yeah, it's beautiful for
Yeah.
them. And then you're going to come down to your chest point. So you can use two hands here, or you can just use one, whatever feels better for you. Either way will work. And then we're going to just take that hand that you've been tapping with, wrap across your body, and go underneath, sort of to where your bra strap would be.
Yeah.
And then that's one whole sequence. So you would just repeat that
Wow.
twice or three times if you need. You only start on your hand initially. And so the second time around, you can just come back to the top of your head and then back to the inside of your eye.
And the research showed with EFT, is that what? Yeah, 43% of the
Deep.
saliva gland decreased. And was that just for the 2 rounds of the
That
tapping or
was
throughout the day?
Yeah, that was a session that went for more than 2 rounds, so you might
Yeah.
not get 43% decrease. I think that was like a 20-minute session where people had that amount of space. They weren't tapping for the whole 20 minutes, but they had that space to tap and then have a break and then tap again. So
Mm.
you might not out of 2 rounds get a 43% decrease, but you would absolutely be receiving a benefit and
Yeah, I'm
most.
even thinking about applying it throughout the day, like, okay, it's before school
Yes,
pickup, you know,
yeah,
before a medical appointment, when you
it's
know your child is overly stimulated, and like
yeah,
what you said about co-regulation. So
yeah,
probably doing this before you know your child's going to enter an environment that they're going to possibly be very uncomfortable. So
yes,
your energy and your nervous system would be more balanced and regulated to support yourself and also your family. I loved that. Again, I said it's just realistic, easy to apply, and
yeah.
you don't need anything. You just need your
No.
hand.
Yeah, you can do it anywhere. You can't do it too much. So if people like
Mm,
the tool, you can go to it as much as you need. And I always say to my clients, but first regulation. So before you have to step into any space, like you said, with your child or anything you've got to do where they might also require a co-regulation state with you, just give yourself a little bit of regulation before you step
yeah.
into that because you will have much more capacity to take on information if you're hearing that from a medical professional or hold the space for your child if they're having big emotions in that space. You'll have a bit more capacity because you've provided yourself a little bit more regulation.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. And for any mother, please, this is available on the podcast. You can watch it and link back to it because it was incredibly beneficial for me. I even feel it in my nervous system
Yeah.
slightly now.
It's
Yeah.
lovely and it's very fast acting. So I'm just a
Yeah.
realist in amongst all of this. I think we need things that we can go to at any time. We don't need to wait till we've got our psychologist appointment or whatever it is. We just need these tangible things we can go to each day that give us a little bit of support.
Yeah. Yeah. for anyone listening, I'm sure you felt such at ease and just connected to Elle's voice and her
Oh,
words of wisdom. I connected through Elle just with her content and particularly her voice. I found it so comforting and welcoming to a
oh,
space where your needs will be met and you're heard, because we're living in a world where nobody listens to us authentically. Now,
oh,
Elle, you're based in Sydney. Do
yes.
you offer sessions via Zoom, or are they only one-on-one?
No, I do offer sessions via Zoom. So I've got two options for people to see me. You can see me face to face in clinic, or you can see me online. And I support women with their physical and emotional health. So I do offer clinical EFT sessions like what we just did for emotional support as well. But then also, I have my comprehensive women's health consultation where we will literally go over every facet for you, whether that is interpreting testing, looking at your emotional health, looking at any physical symptoms. You'll get supplement support, nutrition support, lifestyle support. We don't leave any stone unturned. So yeah, I actually work worldwide, which is really amazing.
Oh, wonderful. That's fantastic. And I'll just to contact you via your website. I saw you
Yeah.
have a consultation
Yep.
booking link. Yep. Okay.
Yep. Thank you.
And I will put that all in the show notes. But if anyone wants to reach out to Elle, please visit her website, her contact details there, or give her a follow, which I will put on the show notes and on my Instagram handle. Now, Elle, thank you for coming on Wine with Weta. Before I finish up, I ask all my guests, if you, Elle, were to be a better version of yourself tomorrow, what word will you apply to yourself today?
Oh, it has to be the word that I have on myself, which is truth.
Oh, I
Um,
love it.
and that kind of keeps me in, I guess, coming to every interaction with my whole or authentic self, because I truly believe that that is the only way that we can really connect, like you said, and allow ourselves to hear others, receive others, and be heard and seen ourselves. So it would be truth.
Yeah, love it. And we all need that truth, don't we, Elle? Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Thank you again for coming on Wine with Weta. And for everybody else, another episode of Wine with Weta will be released next week. Take care, everyone. See ya. Thank you for tuning into another episode of Wine with Weta. I hope you found some new inspiration, learnt something new, or gained a fresh perspective. If you enjoy this episode, I'd be so grateful if you please leave a 5-star review, as it really helps the show get in the ears of new listeners, plus it takes 5 seconds. If you're keen for more strategies and insights, then head over to Instagram and follow RS Speech Pathology.